Well, welcome to the 700 Club. The devastation from the Los Angeles wildfires continues to wreak havoc. The two biggest fires have killed at least 10 people and burned more than 10,000 buildings.
Well, the fires are expected to cause billions of dollars in damage, making this one of the most expensive natural disasters in American history. Wendy Griffith has the story.
Residents describe the devastation as apocalyptic. The fire in Pacific Palisades, now the most destructive in Los Angeles history, leveling entire blocks and reducing buildings to rubble.
Right now, thank the Lord, I am safe and I still have power.
TV host Kim Douglas lives just a few minutes from the Palisades.
So I go there every day and I, get my coffee in the morning and I do my errands, I do my grocery shopping there. And it literally is like Armageddon. So the city of Angels has turned into a war zone and everything is flattened. So many friends have lost everything. And the saddest part is they didn't even have a moment to grab, their mementos, their memories, their children's books and files or passports, nothing.
Thursday, Santa Ana winds weakened a bit, allowing firefighters to dump water from the air. The good news, the Sunset Fire that started in the Hollywood Hills Wednesday night, threatening iconic landmarks, has been fully contained. Many are outraged that their city wasn't more prepared, blaming Governor Gavin Newsom for the lack of water, including no pressure in some fire hydrants.
Yeah, I think everybody's shocked by it.
Edward Ring with the California Policy Center says this could have been minimized with proper land management, including the harvesting and thinning of trees.
And all of those things were regulated to the point where it's just such an unreasonable process for property owners to try to do that, that we ended up turning those hillsides into tinderboxes.
As for the lack of water,
we could have opened a lot more fire hydrants and had good pressure before we lost pressure. The water mains that go up into those hills and the pumps that lift the water into those hills should be bigger. And what we've seen over the last several decades is a trend towards sending less water south into the Southern California cities and encouraging those cities, and in many cases mandating through legislation that those cities just get by with less water.
CBN's Operation Blessing and other organizations, including World Vision and Mercury One, are providing emergency relief supplies to people affected by the wildfires.
Operation Blessing is exactly that. They are a blessing, and our partnership has allowed us to do more within the city as we are trying to get disaster relief aid to as many people as possible, working just tirelessly to make that happen. So they have been a blessing, and we're thankful for the operations that are going forth.
Worship leader Joel Mott's home in Pasadena is still standing, although his friends in Altadena weren't so fortunate.
Really dear friends of mine that live in those neighborhoods there that have lost their homes and lost everything.
Joel, you have a ministry called California Will Be Saved. How can God use such a horrific tragedy as these wildfires to save people?
I think the message right now is like everything is temporary. Everything can be taken away in an instant. And so where do we stand with the Lord and encouraging people to come to the Lord, come to Jesus? He's going to be our hope in the time of need. He's our salvation and refuge. So I think that's my message to everyone, the church and the lost. Like, let's have an evaluation of life in general right now. And in this time of need, like, put our faith in something eternal.
As Californians continue to deal with the worst wildfires in their state's history, Christians there are holding on to their faith while urging others to not lose hope.
We serve a God who calms the seas, and he can direct the winds, and he can give us hope even when it seems like there's no hope to be had. So I just want to be somebody that people can call and we can say, okay, this is what's happening, but we also have this. We know this. And this is when the Lord shines brightest and tends to just blow us all away with his glory and his grace. And I believe he's going to do that for the City of Angels.
Wendy Griffith, CBN News.
Well, our motto at Operation Blessing is when disasters strike, we strike back with love and compassion. We want to be there for people in their time of need. I've seen some social media commentary about, why help the rich people. There are a lot of poor people affected by these fires. And at the end of this, rich or poor, when you've lost everything, you don't have anything left anymore. All your memories are gone. All your photos, all your possessions, it's all gone. That's precisely the point. You need someone to come alongside you and say, we care. We want to help you. We want to be with you in your time of need. If you want to be an assistance to people in this horrible tragedy, call us and say, I want to give to the Operation Blessing Disaster Relief Fund. You can also write to us at CBN Center, Virginia Beach, Virginia, 23463. You can go to cbn.com. There's a place where you can designate your gift. You can also text OBDR to 71777. Let's be a blessing to people and say, yes, we love you. We have compassion for you. We want to be there for you when you're in need. In other news, after more than a year of constant Israeli attacks, Hamas is still able to launch rockets into Israel. John Jessup has that story and more from our CBN News Bureau in Washington. John?
That's right, Gordon. Hamas just this week fired a strike into the Israeli town of Sderot. CBN News examines how Hamas can keep up its rocket attacks and also has more information about Hamas using a hospital as a base of operations. CBN's Paul Strand brings us a story from Jerusalem.
Israel is still discovering weapons, tunnels, and terrorists in Gaza. Despite being hit by repeated attacks for so long, Hamas is still able to launch rockets at Israel. Most of them are falling in open spaces or back into Gaza, but one did hit a house in Sderot earlier this week, causing a little damage but no injuries. CBN war correspondent Chuck Holton explains how Hamas keeps their rockets hidden from Israeli forces.
They're going back into places that the IDF has already been, but they didn't find those rockets. And we have to explain to people how this works. Hamas was going around before the war, digging holes all over Gaza and making rocket launchers underground, covering them up with a piece of plywood and then a bunch of dirt.
Holton says Hamas then uses those locations for more attacks.
They go and in a place where the IDF has already been and they've cleared and then they've moved out of, the Hamas operatives will move back in there, uncover one of these and light off some of these rockets.
As Israel keeps up its military pressure on Hamas, the IDF has faced international criticism for its recent attack on the Kamal Adwan hospital in northern Gaza. But at least one Hamas prisoner is admitting the terror group used it as a shelter.
They believe it's a safe haven for them because the military cannot directly target it.
The prisoner, who was also an employee in the hospital, said Hamas operatives transported equipment to and from the hospital and used it as an observation point and command and control center.
Inside the hospital, they distribute the grenades and mortars, equipment for attacking tanks to ambush positions and to underground tunnels.
Paul Strand, CBN News, Jerusalem.
All right, thank you, Paul. Well, here in Washington, 5 presidents, along with other dignitaries, attended Thursday's state funeral of former President Jimmy Carter at the Washington National Cathedral. In addition to his life and legacy, they honored Carter's service to God, America, and the world. CBN News White House correspondent Kelly Wright brings us that story.
This funeral felt more like a celebration of Jimmy Carter's journey of faith. From being a child growing up on his father's peanut farm in Plains, Georgia, to becoming the President of the United States, and then a Nobel Peace Prize recipient for his humanitarian service and positive impact.
I am the resurrection.
As the 39th president's flag-draped coffin was brought into the National Cathedral, his close friend Andrew Young delivered the opening scripture. In life, Jimmy Carter worked to help people throughout the world, seeking to cure diseases, help the poor, and ending racial and political divisions here at home. He believed in bringing all people together. That was in evidence as Presidents Barack Obama and Donald Trump sat side by side, talking together as they awaited the funeral service. In delivering the eulogy, President Biden described Carter as a man of character.
Jimmy Carter's friendship taught me and through his life taught me the strength of character is more than title or the power we hold. It's the strength to understand that everyone should be treated with dignity, respect, that everyone, and I mean everyone, deserves an even shot.
Carter's grandsons eloquently shared precious memories of not only seeing him serve the world, but serving them as a grandfather who showered them with love and guidance.
Is the growing chasm between the richest and poorest people on earth. He worshiped the Prince of Peace.
His life was a testament to the goodness of God.
In summary, President Biden said America is a journey of faith, and Jimmy Carter embodied that as a patriot. As his grandson Joshua stated, Carter was a man who lived by the fruit of the Holy Spirit. He acted justly, loved mercy, and walked humbly before his God. President Carter will be remembered as a man of faith. In Washington, Kelly Wright, CBN News.
Thank you, Kelly. Gordon, a moving service for a life well lived.
I was with Jimmy Carter in the Philippines when he was working on a Habitat for Humanity build. And we labored together in the hot sun, and boy, he worked very hard, and no complaints ever from him. What he did after he was president was probably the greater legacy. And part of that legacy, and I just was very moving for me personally, is to have Stephen Ford stand up, Gerald Ford's son. They became fast friends. They were obviously political opponents back in 1976, but curiously formed a friendship. And in that friendship resolved that each one would, have a eulogy, and if they weren't alive, it would be read at their funeral. To hear Gerald Ford, a political enemy, say how much he admired him was absolutely fantastic. But let me underline the situation of how they became friends. It was over a very long flight to Egypt to attend the funeral of Anwar Sadat, who gave his life for peace with Israel. The Camp David Accords were a remarkable achievement where Egypt declared peace and recognized Israel. And Sadat went to the Knesset to give an address, an historic mark in Middle East history. But the Muslim Brotherhood assassinated him very publicly. He gave his life for peace. And as we remember Jimmy Carter and remember the Camp David Accords, let's remember the sacrifice of those within the Middle East who have seen a light to freedom and to peace in the region and are willing to lay down their lives.